Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En Route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom.
Lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consumes, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to True Wealth. I'm Dave Basconi, and here in the studio with me is Maria Smith. Maria, how are you on this lovely day?
Doing well, thank you. How about yourself?
Yeah. Good start to the week, at least if the weather matters. Beautiful day, so I take all the positives I can get wherever they come from. It's one less thing to have to deal with. Can you imagine it being snowy and icy and you have to be somewhere? So today we don't have to deal with that, so good start to the day.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. So what's on your mind today?
Okay, the last few days or so I've been thinking about this beautiful Latin hymn that I love. It's Adoro Te Devote, and in English, the English version is also really quite beautiful, as well as the melody. The English version is Godhead here in hiding, whom we do adore. Now, to backtrack a little bit, at a confirmation not too long ago this year, the bishop spoke about the 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit, and the one gift that he spoke more at length about was the fear of the Lord. Now that gift, when we list all the gifts, sounds like the least desirable in a way because it includes fear, and fear has a negative connotation to it. So he described it. He explained fear of the Lord as really a wonder, an awe, being in awe of God, just wondering at this immense being that created the universe and created each and every one of us. It's just overwhelming. It's just overpowering to sit and contemplate the greatness of God. And it brought me to the song, Adoro Te Devote, because in English, the last line of the first stanza is, lost, all lost in wonder, at the God thou art. Just imagine wherever you are, outside, inside, in a church, at adoration, sitting on your deck, in a barn, on a farm, wherever you are, just think, God is so great. Just the contemplation of that, you can get lost. It is just overwhelming. Really, words can't describe it. Even as I'm speaking now, I'm saying the words have almost nothing to do with the actual doing of it, with the actual being in God's presence and being lost in wonder at His greatness, at His goodness, at His power, at His everything. He is the master at everything. You think about a musician, a carpenter, anything, an engineer, he is the master. And think about how much we are in awe, how much we idolize, hero worship, all the great celebrities, or the people who have such talent, or the people who are so smart, or people who are so rich, whoever. God is more than all of them put together. So anyway, I think I'll stop now. I could go on and on about the greatness of God, but I will stop and anyway, hand it to you, Dave.
Well, I think your comments are very well taken. Yes, the word fear does not mean what most people think, and you're right, it does, cause negative thoughts. But I learned a long time ago to use the word respect. Fear of the Lord is respect for the Lord. Now, I actually think wonder and awe are even better, but they all kind of tie in together in that we've taken this negative connotation to a positive, a very positive. And once I learned that, then, a lot of things kind of fell into place. It's amazing. It's like finding that one puzzle piece that you need. And once you find that one, then you can kind of, put in some other ones and things start to move. for you, whether it's faith or puzzles. But the other thing that, as you were speaking, came to mind is this wonder and awe. Is the example I read was when you have a relationship with someone, and it's so good, so deep, that you don't need words. You could be somewhere looking at a sunset or something, anything. And just by being in the presence of this other person that you know so deeply, words aren't needed. And I think it was described in the passage I was reading in this book as the aha moment. You both just are totally lost in the wonder and in the awe. And so I think fear of the Lord is also the aha moment. No words are needed. Just everything about the moment speaks for itself.
Yeah, I like that very much. And when you said about respect, it made me think reverence, too. Fear, wonder, awe, respect, reverence. So all these are just really in that gift. And it's not just a fear, something that we should be afraid of God because He is all powerful and He is omniscient and He knows everything we do. He knows us better than we know ourselves. So of course that can very much instill fear. But as the beautiful very brief verse in the Bible, perfect love casts out fear. So the more fear we have, the less love we have. And that's very sad, but very true. The more fear we have of life, of other people, of God, of anything, the more fear we have, the less love. And the contrary is also true. The more love we have, the less we're going to be afraid.
Yeah, and that's the use of the word fear, the definition of fear as we understand it. If we were to go to a dictionary, it would be not the divine definition, but our definition. And you're absolutely right. And I think that's where, as you get closer and deeper in your faith, closer to God and deeper in your faith, and you're able to accomplish that surrender, that's when you really start to lose our definition of fear. That's when you gain in confidence, you gain in peace, and fear is just overwhelmed. It just simply seems to disappear. It melts away when you have confidence and trust in something much, much greater than yourself.
Yeah, that's really, really good. The confidence and the trust. That is exactly true. That is what keeps us afraid when we don't trust God, that He really loves us. And this is I know for myself, this has been very, very scary to say to God, whatever is your will. That is a really scary thing because anything can happen. And it's really frightful to say to Him, whatever you want, which means that we really can't do what we want. We have to do what He wants, which really is the right thing. But it's amazing how much fear that can put into a person to say to God and to mean it, whatever is your will, because all of His closest friends suffered greatly. So we're putting ourselves there too. Instead of saying, please don't give me this suffering, please don't give me this trial, please, instead of just, wanting to escape, avoid suffering, pain at any cost, which is really part of the malady of the world today. I don't think this was the same way in years gone by. I mean, obviously there were many other problems. Always been huge, huge problems in living life. It's never been easy. But I don't think that this problem existed, especially not to the extent that it exists nowadays, where people are trying to avoid and evade and escape from suffering at almost any and every cost. I think people did realize for centuries, for the longest time, that life was suffering. But now we're under this illusion that because of the modern technology, modern medicine, modern science, we should be able to do away with suffering. And, we have done away with a lot of physical suffering. Not all, but we have done away with a lot compared to what it was like in centuries gone by. However, I have been convinced of this for decades, that even though physically we have, in many ways, less suffering, we have less difficult work, that's for sure. People even to go from one place to another, they had to walk.
At one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just interject something.
Yeah.
At one point, I never thought about this. The fastest means of getting from one place to another was on horseback. Before the locomotive came along, the fastest means was someone on horseback. So, and how many thousands of years was that true? And then all of a sudden we get these modern means of transportation, and you kind of forget that fact,
Yeah, and just think about even like air conditioning, fans. Yeah. I mean, we see movies where the richest people, the kings, had set. How many people? 4, 5, 10, a dozen people with fans all around them. That was it. If you weren't one of the wealthiest people, you were out of luck. You were working in the sweltering heat.
Yeah, matter of fact, that's an interesting point. Air conditioning is a relatively new. We've always had heat because even the caveman could
a fire.
Maybe fire from a lightning strike. He figured out he could heat his cave. But air conditioning just came about, less than a century ago, I think. I am not sure exactly when. But anyhow, it's a relatively new convenience. So up until then, everybody dealt with the heat,
But now I think that, so what I was saying was I've been convinced.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. I'm glad I remembered my train of thought because I usually go off on so many tangents. But anyway, I remembered that for decades now, I really have been convinced that our major problem, humanity's major problem in the more advanced nations are really more psychological and emotional. People have, if you get a dose of any kind of news, whether on the computer or on the TV, you see that people have almost completely lost, many of them, their common sense.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I knew what you were going to say when you said that, yes, physical suffering has decreased dramatically. I knew it was going to be mental or emotional, I think so, because when you are so consumed with the task at hand, getting the fields ready for the crop, and then hoping that Mother Nature works in your favor, the rains come at the right time. And we talked about that once before, about the Irish verse about may a gentle rain fall upon your fields. Remember that?
Yeah.
Because a heavy downpour can destroy the field, destroy the crop.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's your food source for both you and your animals, you're in a tough place. Matter of fact, people could die from that. So I think in the past, when you were so consumed with the physical, your mind was always focused on the task. You didn't have time to worry about nonsense, about silly things that don't really count at the end of the day. And but now we've managed to put ourselves in that position. And not only that, but I think in the last, say, 10 years or so, with social media and 24/7 news and all of that, we've just added to the problem. I mean, there's someone, if you wanted to, could never stop worrying just because of the latest thing that just flashed across the screen.
Yeah. It's definitely, I see this too. I think that probably in the next years, in the next decades, that counselors, therapists are going to be needed even more, just for people to actually relate to somebody, for people to actually have time. And that's, in a way that's good maybe, but I think it's really, I don't know, I think it's more of not a good thing, because people really need to be with other people. and have these friendships, you know?
Yeah, I think if we need more counselors and more, regarding whether it's for marriage or for just getting through the day, I think that's a very bad sign of the times. I would say that, we do have the problem, so we do need to address it. But I think if we had more priests, if we had more pastors, we had more churches, I think we have enough churches. They just need to be, all the pews need to be filled instead of only a third of them come Sunday or during the week. Because that's kind of how I grew up. It was just, it was probably both time and place where I grew up. There was a lot of daily services. This was not a heavily Catholic area, but the Protestants, boy, they were there twice on Sunday and every day during the week. And good crowds, too. And they dressed up. They didn't show up and, you mowed the grass and then, let's run down to the church just to get the hour in. They made it a point to be there, to be focused. And, I grew up in a small town where that was just the way you did it. And I think things were much better then. And I, in some ways, would like to return back to those times and go that route instead of all the counselors, the ones with all the letters behind their names.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm in total agreement there, and I'll tell you why. I think what you said about, we need more priests and pastors, true, but I really think it needs to start first with the lay people. From the lay people, you will get more priests if the lay people themselves become more informed. Study. I mean, this is really what confirmation is for every single Catholic. It is the beginning of the profound studies that are supposed to take your whole life, learning more about God. And part of that is the contemplation, spending time with God. The other part of it is reading. Read the Bible. Look now, see, we didn't have this opportunity decades ago, and certainly not centuries ago, when most people were illiterate. We have this opportunity now. So, you see, you were saying it was better then. I agree some things were better, but I think some other things, different things, are actually better now, currently, at this very moment. How many, decades ago, centuries ago, who could get an encyclical that the Pope wrote? Where were you going to go find one? How were you going to pay for it? Who was going to? Now, there it is on the computer. You have all these encyclicals. You have the Vatican archives. Oh, my goodness. You can read what the Holy Father said. You can read what the commentaries that people have said about them. You can see so many things about, all the homilies. Oh, my goodness, there are such beautiful homilies. EWTN. My own pastor has his homilies on, and they're wonderful. Then also the friary that I belong to, that I go to, the Franciscan Friary, we have their homilies. Excellent homilies from other priests all over the world, not just the United States. So there is so much. We don't have to say, I don't understand this. Who can understand it? It's too hard. You can find out. So I think that actually there are so many wonderful things about this current age. There are just so many great things. In every age, it says in the Bible, the greater the evil, the more grace will abound. And I believe that right now, even though there is such tremendous evil and confusion and insanity, that there is so much good. If only we search for that, if only we go, we can learn. And so even with the counseling things, I think that the lay people, and that's one of the reasons why I'm doing that too, but I think every lay person should be more informed about their faith, more informed about what's right, what's true, what's good, the beautiful, the good, the truth. And this way, you will get better priests. You'll get more priests and better priests. But it really has to start in the family and with each individual person, and then with the family, and then reach out to others.
Yes, I agree with you. And I think I was kind of saying that. I probably didn't say it in a good way, or maybe used the right words. A couple of things. One is when I was referring to times were better, I was just talking back to my younger days, not beyond that. But yes, the technology has made so many things available to us that people 2 centuries ago, would have had maybe no chance at all of getting what we just take for granted today. So, and the other thing was, I agree with just having more priests and pastors is not the solution. And I think my reference to that the churches, the pews, if they were full instead of a third, a third of the pews are being used if the whole church was filled up at every service. That was my reference to what you're saying, that it has to start with the people. And maybe I should have said, instead of having counselors to go to, people should start thinking in terms of their faith, which that involves the priest or the pastor. So I agree with you. It has to be a ground roots thing. Has to be organic. Just getting more priests doesn't change anything if the laity doesn't change. And having everything available at the touch of a button doesn't change anything unless people actually go there and want to see what the faith is all about. So we certainly have the tools available to us. It just takes the individual to want to pursue it. And so I agree with you, and I think you said it much better than me.
Oh, I think that's fine, yeah. And then, anyway, so I think you also want to maybe speak about it. We have another 10 minutes or so about yesterday's gospel reading.
Well, actually, I think we could probably spend a whole half hour on that. But yeah, we can touch on it. Maybe we can pick it up again next week if we don't quite get through it.
Okay.
Yesterday's gospel was about the Good Samaritan, and it was Jesus' response to the question, who is my neighbor? And our priest started his homily with a chilling statement that the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco is the number 1 bridge in the country for suicide.
Oh, my goodness. Dave. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I just saw something just the other day, maybe it was yesterday or the day before, about the Golden Gate Bridge. This one guy from New Jersey who wanted to kill himself, went out there twice, didn't do it, obviously, but made a plan to fly from New Jersey to San Francisco to commit suicide off the Golden Gate Bridge. What is it? I didn't know. I didn't. This is the first I've heard of it. I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on?
Yeah, well, then he then mentioned a story about a young man that took his life there, and how the authorities later found a neatly written note in this young man's apartment. It was only 2 lines, and it read like this: "Going to the bridge. If anyone smiles at me, I won't jump."
Wow.
Oh, that was his lead-in and to the parable about the Good Samaritan, and he had everybody's attention. I had chills.
Oh my goodness!
When he read those 2 lines, I had chills, and we all know the events that took place in this parable. On the road from Jerusalem to Jericho, how a man fell victim to robbers that left him half dead, and then a priest and a Levite both see him, but they pass on the opposite side of the road. It was only when the Samaritan came by that he was shown compassion. He took the man to an inn and paid the innkeeper 2 silver coins for his care. When Jesus asked the person he was responding to, which of the 3, in your opinion, was neighbor to the robber's victim? And this man answered, the one who treated him with mercy. And Jesus said, go and do likewise. I've heard that gospel many times, but yesterday really stood out for me, especially when our priest ended with, by showing others mercy, we may not be able to do anything for the man in the parable, but perhaps we can save a life. And I got to tell you, I just walked out of there and I go, that is just a whole new insight to that parable.
Wow.
Any other thoughts other than did that pretty much strike you the way it did me yesterday?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the importance of even a smile, one simple kind word, a simple gesture.
Yeah. If anyone smiles at me, I won't jump. And he jumped. That's where they found the note later. So, I mean, that's just that causes, I think, a serious person to stop and think about that.
Yeah, this is definitely something we can continue on next week's show. The topic of the Good Samaritan, suicide, despair, which is exactly what it was. He felt that nobody cared, not even one single other human being would even smile at him. That is despair. When you feel that your life is so empty, so void of any positive human connection or contact, that is despair. And we can be good Samaritans. We don't have to even, spend hundreds of dollars, which is lots of money, which is the Good Samaritan in the parable. We don't have to bind people's wounds. We can do all that. But just think how simple it is. A smile, a gesture, a kind word. Oh my goodness, how important. Really, that is something to make us anytime, when we're by ourselves, to be at peace with God and with ourselves, and when we're out with other people, to bring that peace that we have to have it ourselves. We can't bring it to other people if we don't have it. We have to have it ourselves if we can bring it to other people. So really, that is the two commandments, the two greatest commandments, right in a nutshell. Be at peace with God. Be at peace with God, and then be at peace with ourselves. Love our neighbor as ourselves. That's twofold. Be at peace with ourselves and bring that peace to others.
Yeah, and it brings together so many things. I had a thought that now escapes me as you were talking, but the ability to make a difference in someone's life with such a simple act. We never know when someone is showing us mercy. I think it was Rhonda that made that comment. And I go, you know what? I'm always kind of thinking I'm showing mercy to other people. I forgive the guy that cuts me off or some rude person in a store or whatever. But Rhonda said there's probably a lot of people doing the same for you. You just don't realize it. And when I thought back on that and some of the incidents in my life, I think people were definitely doing that for me. And so it's not a one-way street. We always tend to think we're the ones always giving and someone else is, receiving. But I think if you cross enough people during the day, there's a lot of people giving back just to you, as much to you as you're giving to others.
Yeah, I like that point that you made. We just don't think of it because we're thinking about ourselves and all that we do and don't realize what others do for us. But, we don't realize what God has done for us, is doing for us at every single second. And you know what? That is really a lack of gratitude and a lack of truth. We're not looking at the truth. We're thinking, oh, I've done this, this, and this. We're looking at a partial truth, which is what the evil one uses to really bring us down. He doesn't give us a total falsehood. He doesn't give us a total lie. He gives us a partial truth, makes it negative. And that's really the lack of gratitude. If we look at truth, the fullness of truth, if we look at Jesus Christ, we know that we are so greatly blessed, no matter our hardships, no matter our difficulties. And I'm going to even the extreme cases, because God is always there and will always lift us up. And the more grateful we are, the more doors and windows open up, and God pours more and more grace into us.
Yeah, and it's that you got to get to that point of to acknowledge this. And once that happens, once you can trust, then everything follows. But you can't just pay it lip service. You actually have to be a participant. And, so I think you said we just had 10 minutes, about 11 minutes ago, so we're probably out of time or there.
We're right at the end. This is a good time to end, and we should definitely continue with this conversation about the Good Samaritan and go into the suicide thing and the despair and the meaning next show too. That would be good.
Yeah, because our priest he said some other things that I wanted to bring in, and I'm looking forward to it. So if we're all set, then let's close with a prayer. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Amen. Bye, Maria. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Dave. Bye-bye, everybody.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.